Thank you so much. I'm doing a good clap. That was entertaining, informative, and everything I think you need at the end of a busy morning session. So thank you so much for that, Prof. We do have a question for you, kindly from Eleanor. She says, "What are your thoughts on qualitative methodology?"
Yes. Well, I think it has its place, but it has a limited place. And I've just given a mock interview for somebody who's applied for a scholarship, a doctorate scholarship, using qualitative research methodology. And her interest is to do with a concept I'd, to be honest, not heard of, which is palliative care for people who are having medical abortion for reasons of congenital anomalies and such like. And she's a person who's done a degree in bioethics, etc. So there are certain very specific circumstances when qualitative research has its value, and essentially it's where you can't get that information any other way. Okay, and I'll give you an example, Eleanor, and that is there was a study done by Lena Neshev, who is a reader or professor in adult neurology over at King's, and what she did was she went and interviewed over a period of time the survivor of a partner who died from SUDEP. Now, there's no way that you could get that information any other way than going and meeting those people. And if you come across SUDEP, and I've come across it in my epilepsy clinics and such like, and you come across it 6 months, a year later, all you get is the narrative story. You don't get what actually happened. So she went through that painful process of going and interviewing people who'd lost their partner. And she made a very, very important discovery, which is you do not die from SUDEP if you co-sleep. Okay, and that could not have been established any other way, and it was published in the Lancet some years ago, and I'm sure helped her to get where she has in life. But the key thing is, to me, qualitative research has great limitations, but it has its position. So that's my answer to that.
Fantastic. That's really helpful and really interesting. I've got a question, actually. So, Prof, I mean, you've been a great inspiration, not just for me, but I'm sure for many of my colleagues who are interested in research.
I'll pay you later for that commentary.
What do you think? What is the thing that you found in your career that kind of either inspired your love of research, or what do you think was the thing that was most influential in getting you into the research?
Yeah. Well, I certainly didn't have a planned career in research. The structure at the moment tends to be incremental and planned, and I would encourage people to remember that you can get into research at any point in your career. Okay, and don't feel intimidated by people who've got big egos and big CVs. So, but I guess that I was drifting a bit, having done my first research project in Manchester, and I didn't realise that what I was doing there was something which happened to be the first in the world of its type, and that's just my naivete. I went and saw these children, and I was drifting when I came to London. I wasn't doing research, but then I got an inspiring mentor who was a community paediatrician called Professor Brent Taylor. He was one of the first professors of community paediatrics in Britain. And I came to work for him, and he spotted my ability and he encouraged me to do further projects. Otherwise, I may have just got a consultant position at a very young age. I interviewed for a couple, which were an absolute dead end and a mistake. So I guess if you ask me today, Rebecca, why I do research, but I would like it to be the reason why the likes of yourself can do research, is for me, and people can look at my personal website about that, www.alistairSutcliffe.co.uk, which is only 4 pages long. It's not got any advertising. This isn't commercial. There's no money in it for me. But for me, there are 4 ways. I have very little wisdom, Rebecca. There are 4 ways to influence patient care. Okay. Number 1 is one-to-one care, you with an individual. And we all do that as clinicians. Okay. Number 2 is inspiring the young, which is, it's a generic phrase, but what it means is you trying to share knowledge with others. It doesn't matter if it's a doctor, physiotherapist, speech, trying to share knowledge with somebody else. We have an obligation to do that. Number 3 is through health services management, and you will know, for example, that Britain was reviewed as being the best managed health service in the world by the Commonwealth Fund, which is an American organisation, where they ranked their that of the 15 they looked at, they found that the American one was the worst, so they weren't biased. It's said to be the best managed, but it can always improve, and you, as trainees, will all know of anecdotes where things have been badly managed. But health service management can be very important. But the fourth one, which is what I'm coming to, is through research. Okay, why do I do research today? And in fact, I'm doing it full time just at the moment. That's going to change again. Is quite simply because if you do research successfully, you can help more than one patient at once. So that brings it to the full circle that my inspiration is through the privilege of looking after children in whatever setting and their families. But through research, instead of, say, getting a child back to a better place, okay, you could cut the potential of affecting 100 children or 1,000 children. And all these things are incremental. Remember the guy who was alleged to be the cleverest person that's ever lived, Newton. Remember what he said? He said, on the shoulders of giants. He was said to be cleverer than Leonardo da Vinci. So everything is incremental. And don't think anything that any of you guys do, potentially, because I hope I'm inspiring you a little bit, in research is of no value. Okay? I started with a case report. Okay? You can't build Rome or whatever it is overnight. So that's my answer to that question, Rebecca. And I think you will get it that I do believe what I'm saying, okay, rather than just lip service.
Yeah, no, I think that's really helpful, not just for me, but like I said, for everyone. We've got another question. It says, if you want to get into research, is it better to get a mentor in your local area or someone in your specific area of interest, which of note we can do easier now because a lot of things have moved virtually and online? What do you think?
Yes, that's a very, very appropriate question. Well, I could hedge and say you could have both, of course, but I think that I would go for the person with either a sort of broad ability in research and across many areas, or somebody who's got a specific interest in your topic. Because the efficiency of that is they will know the topic and they will know the pitfalls of trying to address things from afresh. They'll know the literature, and we're all biased. And biased in a positive way. You go to somebody and say, oh, I like von Blankenstein's disease of the third toe. And they say, oh, well, yeah, great. I've been doing that all my life. Quick flap of the hands. No, I'm just joking. There's all sorts in research. I can tell you, I've come across some strange people. but yes, I would say somebody who's got an interest in that area. And because if you're that person who's relatively new, they won't see you as a threat, because there's all sorts of undercurrents of, you know, elbowing and stuff going on. So I would say do that as the preferable choice. Yeah.
That's great, and that's really helpful. Lastly, I just wanted to ask, because I think everything is kind of moving quite global, isn't it, really, in the world at the moment? Do you think there's anything that other countries do differently in terms of their approach to research for junior doctors, trainees, that we aren't doing here that we could incorporate to help?
I think we've copied some stances from the United States. Okay, so for example, the ambition to have PhD / MB CHB programs, but they're relatively rare. But guys, you need to be proud of this fact. In terms of per capita, we in Britain are the best at medical research in the world, in case you didn't know it. Be proud of that fact, okay? Per capita, we are the best. The second best after allowance for finance, the United States. And just to show you I'm not BSing you, the third country is Sweden, per capita. Okay, so we are the best, and that doesn't mean to say we can't improve, but as a culture and as a scientist group, we are at the top. And one component of that is those three letters, NHS, because it's possible. We've got a medium-sized population. Obviously, I'm putting my epidemiology hat on here, and we've got a lot of structures to allow research to happen. I think what's happened in our college, particularly RCPCH, is it's very much lost its direction when it comes to encouraging trainees to do research. And that's trying to be addressed, but it'll take a long time. And for example, I'm aware that the RCS, I was told, had the same setting some years ago, and they addressed it by whatever mechanism. And then everybody in their college, every trainee was doing a bit of research. So I'm not aware of anything better. And what I am aware of from colleagues who are linguistically talented individuals who go to other countries and practice there is when they practice, particularly in Europe, the studies which are quoted are usually British and American. So I know that's a sort of slightly woolly answer, but we need to know that we're in that environment where research is possible. And one of the things that absolutely is the bane of anybody's existence, including my own, is the administrative processes involved in research. However, even that we're having a steer from America, and that is that they're now starting to downgrade the ethics approval you need for research projects which don't involve anything potentially harmful to children, to make it easier. Because if you look at that form, you just think, I'd be mad to have to spend, you know, but there's always there people in the research design service, you'll find they're genuinely helpful, and they'll probably be particularly helpful to people who are new in a project. So there is a facility, use it, all of you.
Yeah, I think that's a key, isn't it? We've got another question.
Great.
It says, what is the Royal College doing to encourage us to do research?
Okay, well, I've attended a meeting that was held a couple of weeks ago at the college, virtually attending, of course. And what the Vice President for Research, Nick, has done is he's tried to establish what people think about what ideas, what are the blocks to research. So he started at that level, and there's going to be a report produced about it. And I was one of the people who was just taking a little group. I wasn't leading the thing, but I volunteered to be a kind of coach for a small group of doctors. And I must say, I tried to address that at the very beginning of my presentation, Rebecca, which this is a first ever, this particular topic. And that is that people were saying, well, we don't have the time. And I don't totally accept that, I have to say. But they are trying to address it. And I think that I can't, I'm not so in the college, but I think there's an attempt, if I'm correct, in trying to develop a research curriculum and possibly a period of time, 6 weeks, 3 months, whatever, of the training to actually ensure that all trainees have a period of doing some research. I don't know for sure, please don't quote me. The other thing is to remember, guys, everybody should do GCP, which is 2 hours online course. It's very basic, but you can get it free, just do it. Good clinical practice it stands for, which has always struck me as a perverse name, but when it's good research practice, but you'll learn something. But you should all do your basic GCP certificate and put it on the wall. Sorry, I'm joking, but you know, do something there. That's an easy win. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. I'd agree. And in addition to that, my kind of viewpoint is maybe see what your trust is doing. So, for example, our trust locally has set up a research interest group. It's not actually just for trainees. I think it's open to all health professionals, and they meet on a regular basis to discuss their own proposals and how they could make them happen. So there might be something happening in your local trust and you don't know about it. And if there isn't and you're interested, why don't you set something up? Might be an idea that other people are thinking about, and you could do some great collaborative work, I think. So great. Okay, so we've come to the end of the questions, so Prof. So thank you so much for that. I really enjoyed that actually, and it's kind of ended us on a quite reflective note about what we can do to help. So that's great. If anyone wants to spend a couple of minutes asking me questions in general about BACCH or training, they can do. There is already one question which I'm happy to answer, just kind of to the masses. So this is the question. Are there any deaneries that allow CCH trainees to drop general paediatric commitments? In my area, we all do general peds until the end, the bitter end. And we all do, and many of the consultant jobs available are joint community in general. I would personally like to be able to focus solely on the community and have time to do research or public health. I know that there are needs of the service, but having to CCT with good enough skills to be a general paediatrician takes a lot of time away from our CCH training. Yeah, it's something that has been bandied around quite a bit. I could be wrong, but the only place that I know of where trainees don't have to do general paediatrics is where I am, and that's in Alderhay in Liverpool. Having said that, we have to bear the requirements of the college, and the requirements are that you CCT with dual accreditation in community paediatrics, child health, and general paediatrics. I assume the same would be for neurodisability if there are any other neurodisability trainees here. So you do have to meet your level 3 competences for the generic curriculum as well. Just speaking from my personal experience, when I got my grid job, it was 2 years in my current post. And what that means is that I do safeguarding on calls, no general on call. And I did 1 year with general paediatric on call. So in terms of the situation, Becky, I would say that if, for example, if there's anyone here who's thinking of applying to CCH, maybe have a look at the job description and see and ask the people who are already doing the job if you can, what is happening in terms of the on-call commitments. There is some work being done by Lindsay. I don't know if she's around here today. She's one of the trainees in Manchester for CCH. She's looking at the time that we're doing in acute, which is supposed to be, from memory, 30% with 70% in specialty. And I know not even with COVID, but definitely with that has been a lot of stress for people because a lot of people are finding that they're not spending that much time in specialty. So she, to my knowledge, is taking that to CSAC. It's something to be aware of. So there is some talk and there's some work doing it. In terms of consultant jobs, I agree. There are, and it depends by area, there are places where there's a lot of joint working between acute paediatrics and community. We are in a specialty where there is a lot of demand for community paediatricians, and as such, in the not too distant future, that's almost beneficial in a way, because you can in some places pick and choose what jobs you want. And where I am, certainly there are jobs where the requirement is just for community paediatrics, but I suspect that's area specific. So kind of summary is, if you're looking to get a job in CCH or neurodisability or whatever, maybe look at what's available locally. But there is some wider work going on nationally. Hopefully that's helpful. So, there's a research question. Maybe if Alistair's still there.
Yes, I'm listening. Yep.
Oh, very good. Is there any current research targeting to control childhood obesity?
Yes, there are initiatives, and there's national strategies. Very difficult to, at the present time, determine whether they're going to be effective or not. And I personally have an interest in obesity because it's a big topic in children's health, and we're trying to do something which involves intervening to try to give something to children which will reduce their appetite, which is new. And so forth. So there are things, but I'm glad you brought that up, because clearly we can't be immune to the obesity epidemic in the community setting. And I would encourage whoever's making that inquiry to start to get involved in something to help these children before they become obese for life. And just to comment on the answer you've just given, Rebecca, regarding the other matter. At some of the executive meetings, this issue of community paediatricians and general training was brought up, and I think the view of BACCH executive was that they shouldn't have to do both. And you make a good point that it's a shortage specialty, as is paediatrics as a whole. And my view is that at some point the specialty will start to divide at the ST post membership level, and that's the way we're going to go. And it'd be quite nice, just a private view, that neonatology branches often becomes its own thing, because I think there is going to be that constant drag of general versus community, and people who've chosen to go into our specialty, as in what you and I have trained in, do it because they love it and they don't want to do general paediatrics. So that's something yeah, which hopefully goes. But thanks for the research question.
Yep, yeah, that's really helpful. I've just been messaging Lindsay. Shout out to Lindsay. Shout out to everyone in Northwestern Mersey. Pete, hi friends. Lindsay has said the generic curriculum doesn't have to be in general peds, i.e. neonatal grids don't do general peds. Yes, so I should point that out. It's the generic competencies that we're working to. Does anyone have any other questions or anything else they'd like to say before I close our meeting? Speak now or forever hold your peace. If you do want to ask me something, you can. I put the links up while Prof was talking. So I've put some links to our Twitter page for the trainees and for BACCH. I've put a little link to joining the membership if you'd like to join us. The rates are all there. And also just to say that this is the last time that I'll be leading a meeting. It's really sad. And as many of you will know, obviously the plan was to do this face-to-face in Birmingham in May, I think it was. But obviously with COVID, we had to change everything over. So I'd welcome thoughts from people about how to run things. We had talks because, and Prof mentioned in his talk about things, potential and image of things being London-centric, and we definitely want to be more inclusive of everyone. So we were thinking about potentially doing the trainee days alternating between London and then another venue around the country. So if you've got thoughts on that or want to ask any other questions, feel free to ask. The email address, I know we had issues with the trainees email address, but there's the general BACCH email address on the website, and you can always send it to there and ask for the trainee reps. As I've just said, I'm finishing my post at the end of the year. So the nominations close at the 30th of December. So if you want to do my job, go for it. We've got another question. Selson, sorry if I haven't said that right. Hi, could you please let us know where we can check the ongoing research projects and join if possible? So I think that Prof is asking whether there's any centralized way of checking what's happening.
Yeah, the NIHR portfolio is accessible on their website, so you can have a look at what they're doing. Beyond that, I would say that if you've got an idea, then you can get in touch with somebody who's specialised in that area. But the NIHR portfolio does contain all the projects that's been awarded, everything from your randomised trials to your doctorate fellowship, successful candidates, etc. So that's a place to go. And the college does turn out a newsletter, an item about what's coming up funding wise in research. So there are various sources, but I would say there's not a single source for that information.
Yeah, absolutely. Lindsay's just messaged me just to say, Lindsay, you're just a fount of all knowledge here. So she said when the issue about the acute versus time and specialty issue was discussed at CSAC, it was thought that a bit of general pediatrics, like 30% maximum, is useful for things like leadership skills. And just to be aware that if you were to spend all time in specialty but drop on calls, that could obviously affect pay, which could put people off grid. So that is something to bear in mind. I mean, to be fair, I am still doing on-calls. They're different kinds of on-calls because I don't do night. But there are lots of things to consider, and it is about the balance, isn't it, really? So has someone posted another question? Yes, please, to moving the trainees day around the country, avoiding London would be good. So obviously, like I said, I'm finishing my post, but I will be handing over to whoever takes over the role. And I definitely think it's something that we should think about. And I mean, I hope that the COVID situation starts to get better, but we need to consider all of our options. And please let us know. Isabel will be sending out the evaluation forms on how this went. So if you thought it was okay, let us know. If you thought it was great, that's great. If you thought it was terrible and it doesn't work virtually, please also let us know, because if you don't tell us, then we don't know. So I think that is, let me see, is that it? Have we got another question? Oh, Hannah has said the ability to attend virtually is brilliant. Oh, hold on, vanished halfway through reading. Ability to attend virtually is good for those of us further away from London, Real life meetings will be great when we're able to, but it would be even better to have the option to attend virtually as well. Thank you for a great morning. Thank you so much, Hannah. That's really useful. And I'd agree. It is great that we're able to do this because sometimes it means that more people can attend. But I don't know about you, but previous trainees days, I've definitely felt that having that face-to-face connection is really good. It's good for us just having a chat about how things are and networking. I hate that word, but definitely it helps. I think I keep saying I think, and then someone else asks another question, but I think that's it. So I just really wanted to say thank you to everyone for making this. I mean, I found it really enjoyable and it's been really easy for me because of the hard work put in by so many other people. So firstly, I'd like to thank Isabel and Prafula, who are the admin staff at BACCH, for putting in so much hard work preparing this event. And in some ways, it's been more tricky to do than a real life session. So thank you so much for that. And also to Jamie from Royal College IT, who's been really helpful in sorting out our speakers and any IT issues. Also want to thank Lisa Kaufman, who's the chair of BACCH. She's been really supportive of us as trainee reps. I'd like to thank all of our speakers because they've been really, really good at just getting us involved and interested in these topics, which are really applicable to this. I'd really also like to thank Ellie, who's the other trainee rep who's currently on maternity leave, because she was involved in planning some of these talks for the face-to-face meeting, and it's been a success. I know that some of the things we're hoping to be more interactive than they have been today, but I've found them really interesting. And last thing I wanted to do is thank everybody that's attended today and that will be watching this online. Thanks so much for your support. If you haven't joined BACCH, I'm plugging it again. Join BACCH. There are lots and lots of benefits. So please join, and hopefully we'll be seeing each other again in the not too distant future. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.